The control room buzzed with quiet activity as Commander Hyun-woo stared at the display screen. Numbers scrolled past his eyes, each one more confusing than the last. Something was wrong. Very wrong. "Mirai, look at this again," he said to the young analyst sitting beside him. "Tell me I'm reading this wrong." Mirai leaned forward, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. She studied the data for a long moment, then shook her head slowly. "No, sir. The readings are accurate. Multiple energy signatures detected in Sector 447. Military-grade propulsion systems. Advanced shield technology. Fleet coordination patterns." Hyun-woo felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. Sector 447, that was near Earth. The primitive planet they had catalogued 40 years ago and promptly forgotten about. The humans there had barely figured out nuclear power when the Dominion scouts had visited. They were centuries away from spaceflight, maybe longer. They posed no threat to anyone. "Run a diagnostic on all sensors," Hyun-woo ordered. "This has to be a malfunction." 3 hours later, the diagnostics came back clean. The sensors were working perfectly. The readings were real. Hyun-woo prepared his report and sent it up the chain of command. He included every detail, every measurement, every concerning data point. Then he waited. The response came 2 days later. High Chancellor Taeyang himself had reviewed the report. The message was brief and dismissive. The council had decided that the readings were either sensor echoes from a nearby nebula, or perhaps a small group of pirates who had wandered into that sector. Nothing to worry about. They were sending a task force, 12 warships, standard patrol strength. Their mission was simple: investigate the anomalies, identify the source, and remind whoever was out there that this region of space belonged to the Galactic Dominion. Hyun-woo read the orders and felt uneasy. 12 ships seemed like enough for pirates or smugglers. But what if it wasn't pirates? What if the readings were accurate and something else was happening in that sector? He kept his concerns to himself. The council had made their decision. He was just an intelligence officer. His job was to collect data, not question the wisdom of his superiors. The task force departed 3 days later. Hyun-woo watched them go, 12 gleaming vessels disappearing into the dark between stars. Standard procedure called for regular reports every 48 hours. He marked the schedule in his calendar and returned to his other duties. The first report arrived on time. Everything normal. No contacts detected. Continuing toward the anomaly source. The second report never came. Hyun-woo noticed immediately when the scheduled transmission window passed without any communication. He checked all channels, thinking perhaps they had switched frequencies. Nothing. He sent a query to the task force. No response. Mirai looked worried. Could it be a communications malfunction? On all 12 ships at once? Hyun-woo shook his head. Not likely. Request permission to send a reconnaissance probe. The approval came quickly this time. Someone higher up the chain was paying attention now. The probe launched and made the jump to the task force's last known coordinates. It would take 3 weeks to arrive, scan the area, and transmit its findings back to Dominion space. Those 3 weeks felt like 3 years. When the data finally arrived, Hyun-woo called Mirai to the control room immediately. They reviewed the probe's scans together in silence. Debris, scattered across thousands of kilometers of space. Pieces of hull plating, fragments of engines, the shattered remains of Dominion warships, all 12 of them. Run a combat analysis, Hyun-woo said quietly. His hands were shaking. The computer processed the debris patterns, studying the way the metal had been torn apart. The blast signatures, the distribution of wreckage. The results appeared on the screen. Engagement duration, less than 4 minutes. No distress signals transmitted. No escape pods launched. Cause of destruction. Directed energy weapons of unknown configuration. Power output exceeded standard Dominion military specifications by a factor of 3. That's impossible, Mirai whispered. Nothing in this sector has that kind of firepower. Nothing. Hyun-woo was about to respond when the computer chimed. The probe had detected something else. A small object floating among the debris. A message buoy. Retrieve the message, he ordered. The buoy was human in design. Simple, functional, broadcasting on multiple frequencies in dozens of languages, including the primary languages of the Dominion. The message played automatically. A voice spoke. Human, male, speaking perfect Dominion standard. The accent was strange, but the words were clear. This is a warning to the Galactic Dominion. You sent 12 warships into our space without permission. We have destroyed them. Leave this sector immediately. Do not return. Do not send more ships. This is your only warning. If you ignore it, the consequences will be severe. We are human. We do not want war, but we will not allow our home to be threatened. Leave now. The message ended. The recording looped and began again. Hyunwoo and Mirai sat in stunned silence. Humans. The primitive species from Earth. They had destroyed 12 Dominion warships. In 4 minutes. And they were claiming it as a defensive action. Send this to the council immediately, Hyunwoo said. Everything. All the data. The message. Everything. Mirai nodded and began compiling the report. Her fingers trembled as she worked. Hyunwoo stared at the debris field on the screen. 12 ships. 12 crews. Thousands of lives. Gone in minutes. Destroyed by a species the Dominion had dismissed as harmless primitives just 40 years ago. What had happened in those 40 years? How had the humans advanced so quickly? And more importantly, what else were they capable of? The questions haunted him as he watched Mirai send the report. The council would have to take this seriously now. They couldn't dismiss this as sensor glitches or pirate activity. The humans had spoken. They had backed up their words with devastating action. And now the Galactic Dominion had to decide how to respond. Hyunwoo had a terrible feeling he knew what the council would choose. They would see this as an insult, an attack on Dominion pride. They would respond with overwhelming force. And if the humans could destroy 12 ships in 4 minutes, what would they do when faced with a real fleet? He didn't want to find out. But he suspected he wouldn't have a choice. The council would want blood. They would want revenge. They would want to show the entire galaxy that no one challenged the Dominion and survived. Hyunwoo looked at the debris field one more time before closing the display. Somewhere out there in the darkness around Earth, the humans were waiting. And they had just declared war on the most powerful empire in the galaxy. The council chamber was vast and cold. High Chancellor Taiyang sat on his elevated throne, looking down at the gathered military leaders and advisors. His face showed no emotion as the holographic display replayed the destruction of the task force for the 3rd time. Fleet Admiral Ji-won stood with her arms crossed, watching carefully. She was the youngest person to ever reach her rank, and she had gotten there by being smart. Not just lucky. Something about this situation bothered her deeply. Beside her, Grand Strategist Seung tapped his fingers against his datapad. He was older, experienced, a veteran of a dozen campaigns. But even he looked uncertain. The hologram froze on the image of the message boy. The human warning played once more through the chamber's speakers. Primitives, Taeyang said when the message ended. His voice was cold with contempt. 40 years ago they were playing with crude chemical rockets. Now they expect us to believe they destroyed 12 of our warships? The evidence is clear, Chancellor, Ji-won said carefully. The debris field, the energy signatures, the message. The humans are responsible. Impossible. Taiyang waved his hand dismissively. No species advances that quickly. Not without help. Shung looked up from his datapad. Perhaps they had help, Chancellor. Pirates, mercenaries, maybe even one of the Outer Rim species we haven't fully catalogued. They could be using human communication systems to hide their true identity. That makes more sense, Taiyang said, nodding. Someone is trying to create chaos. They think they can challenge us and hide behind human broadcasts. They will learn otherwise, Ji-won wanted to argue but held her tongue. She had reviewed the tactical data a dozen times. The attack patterns showed something she had never seen before. The precision, the coordination, the sheer efficiency of the strike. This wasn't the work of pirates or mercenaries. This was something else entirely. What do you recommend, Admiral? Taiyang asked. Ji-won chose her words carefully. We should proceed with caution, Chancellor. Whatever destroyed our task force has technology that rivals our own, perhaps even exceeds it in some areas. We should send scouts first, gather more intelligence before committing major forces. Taiyang's expression darkened. Caution? The Dominion does not show caution to those who murder our people. We show strength. Overwhelming, undeniable strength. Seung nodded in agreement. The Chancellor is right. If we appear weak now, every vassal species will think they can challenge us. We must respond with decisive force. Then what do you propose? Ji-won asked, though she already knew the answer. The 5th Armada, Taeyang declared. 300 ships. 2 dreadnoughts. We will crush whoever is hiding in that sector. And we will send a message to the entire galaxy. The Dominion does not tolerate defiance. The decision was made. The other council members voiced their agreement. Only Jiwon remained silent, her mind racing through tactical scenarios. 300 ships should be enough for any conventional force. But something told her this wouldn't be a conventional engagement. The meeting ended. As the council dispersed, Jiwon caught up with Shung in the hallway. "You saw the same data I did," she said quietly. "Those weren't pirates." Shung looked at her for a long moment. "No, they weren't." "Then why didn't you say something?" "Because it doesn't matter." Shung's voice was tired. "The council has decided. The Chancellor wants blood. Whether it's humans or some unknown species, we're going to war. Our job is to win that war, not question it." Jiwon watched him walk away, feeling a cold dread settle in her chest. Far across the galaxy, on a massive orbital station circling Earth, Admiral Junho stood in the command center. The room was filled with displays showing ship positions, sensor readings, and tactical projections. Dozens of officers worked at their stations, their faces tense with concentration. Captain Nari approached holding a data pad. "Sir, our scouts report the Dominion is mobilizing forces. We count 300 ships assembling at the border of our space." Junho nodded slowly. He had expected this. The Dominion couldn't ignore the destruction of their task force. They had to respond, and they would respond with overwhelming force because that was how empires thought. "How long until they arrive?" "Estimated 6 days at their current speed." "Good. That gives us time to prepare." Junho turned to face the main display, which showed Earth hanging in the darkness of space. Beautiful. Blue and green and white. Home. Nari hesitated. "Sir, 300 ships. We have 75. "I know the numbers, Captain. Some of the other officers are worried. They're asking if we should evacuate the civilian population." "No." Junho's voice was firm. "We're not running. Not from them. Not from anyone." A door opened and a civilian entered the command center. Doyen, the political liaison assigned to work with the military. He looked nervous, which was his natural state these days. "Admiral, the Unified Council wants an update. They're asking if we're sure about this." Junho turned to face him. "Tell the council exactly what I'm about to tell you. 40 years ago, the Dominion found us. They sent their drones to watch us. They cataloged us like we were animals in a zoo. Primitive, harmless, beneath their notice." He walked to the main display and gestured at Earth. "They thought we would still be playing with rockets when they decided to come back. They thought they could take our world whenever they wanted. They were wrong." Doyen swallowed hard. "What did we do?" "We went dark," Junho said. "Complete communications blackout. We made them think we were still primitive. And while they forgot about us, we worked. We reverse-engineered their drone technology. We learned everything about them. Their ships, their weapons, their tactics." Nari took over the explanation. "We united every nation, every resource, every brilliant mind on Earth. We built new technology. We created weapons they've never seen. We prepared for war, but why?" Doyen asked. "Why not try to negotiate? Maybe they would have left us alone." Junho shook his head. "Empires don't leave anyone alone. They conquer. They control. They dominate. That's what they do. We learned that by studying them. The Dominion has conquered thousands of worlds. They force other species to serve them. They take everything and give nothing back." He looked at Doyen directly. "So we made a choice. We decided that humanity would never kneel, never surrender, never become slaves. And if that meant war, then we would be ready for war." "Are we really ready?" Doyen's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes." Junho's answer was absolute. "They're bringing 300 ships. They think that's overwhelming force. They think we'll see their armada and surrender in fear, but they don't understand what they're facing." He pulled up displays showing human ship designs, sleek, dark vessels that looked nothing like the bulky Dominion cruisers. "Our ships are faster. Our weapons are stronger. Our technology is more advanced. We've had 40 years to prepare for this exact moment. Every ship, every weapon, every tactic has been designed for one purpose: to destroy the Dominion if they threaten our home." Nari added, "And we have something they don't. We're fighting for our survival, for our families, for our world." "They're fighting because their pride was hurt." Junho nodded. "Desperation makes humans dangerous, and we're very desperate." Doyen looked at the Earth on the display, then at the tactical projections showing the approaching Dominion fleet. What happens if we lose? We won't, Junho said simply. Because we can't. Losing means extinction. Losing means everything we've built, everything we've fought for ends. So we don't lose. It's not an option. He turned back to the command staff. All ships to battle stations. Activate the defense platforms. Wake up the AI systems. Begin final preparations. Orders flowed through the command center. Across human space, warships powered up their weapons. Hidden platforms in asteroid belts and planetary orbits came online. Automated defense systems that had been sleeping for decades opened their eyes. Humanity was ready. The Dominion was bringing 300 ships to crush them. They thought it would be easy. They thought humans were weak, primitive, helpless. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Admiral Junho looked at Earth one more time, then turned his attention to the tactical displays. In 6 days, the Dominion would arrive. In 6 days, the real war would begin, and humanity would show the galaxy what happened when you threatened their home. The Fifth Armada emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. 300 warships arranged in a massive battle grid that stretched across thousands of kilometers. At the center, the two dreadnoughts dominated the formation like ancient gods of war. Fleet Admiral Jiwan stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominance, her flagship. The massive viewscreen showed empty space ahead, dark, silent, nothing. Sensor sweep, she ordered. Find them. Commodore Minho worked at his console, coordinating the fleet's scanning systems. Minutes passed. The readouts remained empty. Nothing, Admiral. No ships detected. No stations. No defense platforms. The sector appears abandoned, Jiwan frowned. This didn't make sense. Intelligence had confirmed human military activity in this region. Ships had been detected. Energy signatures had been recorded. Where were they? Could they have retreated? Minho asked. Maybe. But Jiwan didn't believe it. Species that destroyed 12 warships in 4 minutes didn't run away when faced with a larger force. They had something planned. Admiral, the Chancellor is requesting a status update, the communications officer reported. Jiwan suppressed a sigh. Tell him we've arrived and are conducting reconnaissance. No contact with enemy forces yet. She studied the tactical display, looking for anything unusual. The fleet was approaching the inner system where Earth orbited its star. Standard doctrine called for a cautious advance with scouts ahead of the main force, but the Council had ordered a direct assault. Show of force. Overwhelming power. Make them surrender or destroy them quickly. All ships advance to the 4th planet, Jiwan commanded. Maintain formation. Keep sensors at maximum. The Armada began moving forward. Hundreds of massive engines flared to life, pushing the great warships deeper into human space. They had traveled for 2 hours when the first ship disappeared. Contact lost with the rising dawn, Minho reported, confusion in his voice. One moment they were there, next moment their signal just vanished. Vanished? Jiwan stepped closer to his console. What do you mean, vanished? I mean their transponder stopped transmitting. No distress signal, no debris. They just disappeared from sensors. Before Jiwan could respond, another ship vanished. Then another. Then 5 more in quick succession. Evasive maneuvers, Jiwan shouted. All ships scatter. Activate shields. The formation broke apart as captains tried to avoid whatever invisible threat was destroying their vessels. Chaos spread through the fleet. Ships collided as they turned too sharply. Others fired their weapons blindly into empty space, hoping to hit something they couldn't see. Then Jiwan saw them. Streaks of light. Brief flashes against the darkness. Human ships appearing from nowhere, firing devastating beams of energy, then disappearing again before return fire could target them. They moved impossibly fast, materializing at point-blank range and vanishing just as quickly. They're teleporting. Minho's voice was filled with disbelief. Short-range teleportation. How is that possible? Jiwan had no answer. Teleportation technology was theoretical. The Dominion's best scientists said it was decades away from practical application. Yet the humans were using it as a weapon. A human ship appeared directly in front of the Eternal Dominance. For a split second, Jiwan could see it clearly, smaller than a Dominion cruiser. Dark hull coated in something that absorbed sensor beams. Angular design that looked predatory and aggressive. It fired. The lance of energy struck the dreadnought's forward shields. They held but barely. Alarms screamed across the bridge. Power fluctuated. Damage reports flooded in from the forward sections. The human ship vanished before the Eternal Dominance could return fire. All ships, focus fire on the last known positions, G1 ordered. Saturate those coordinates with everything we have. The Dominion fleet unleashed a massive barrage. Thousands of weapons fired simultaneously. Energy beams and missiles and kinetic rounds filled the space where human ships had been seconds before. But the humans were already gone. They appeared somewhere else, struck again, and vanished. They were fighting like ghosts, like shadows, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted. G1 watched in growing horror as her fleet died around her. Ship after ship exploded or went dark. Human weapons punched through Dominion shields as if they weren't there. Point defense systems designed to intercept incoming missiles were useless against instant impact energy weapons. They're jamming our communications, Minyo reported. Half our ships can't coordinate with each other. Switch to laser link communications. Tight beam only, already tried, Admiral. They're blocking those too. Their electronic warfare is more sophisticated than ours. Another dreadnought, the Morning Star, erupted in a massive explosion. G1 felt the shockwave even across the distance. Thousands of crew members gone in an instant. Admiral, we've lost 90 ships, Minho said quietly. 90 ships in 2 hours. At this rate, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. At this rate, the entire Armada would be destroyed before they even got close to Earth. G1 made the hardest decision of her life. All ships retreat. Full reverse. Get us out of here. Admiral, the Council ordered. I don't care what the Council ordered, G1 snapped. We're being slaughtered. If we stay, we all die. Retreat. Now. The surviving ships turned and ran. The withdrawal was chaos. Ships that had maintained perfect formation for years scattered in every direction, each captain desperate to escape. The humans pursued, picking off the slowest vessels with cold precision. G1 watched the tactical display as her proud armada fell apart. Ships she had served on, friends she had known for years, all dying in the darkness of space, and there was nothing she could do to save them. Jump to hyperspace as soon as we're clear of the gravity well, she ordered. The Eternal Dominance shuddered as another human attack struck its rear shields. The lights flickered. More alarms sounded. Shields at 30%. Divert all power to engines. Get us out of range. The minutes crawled by. Every second felt like an hour. Every moment she expected another human ship to appear and deliver the killing blow. But somehow the dreadnought survived finally. The navigation officer reported, "Clear to jump." "Admiral, do it." The Eternal Dominance and the surviving ships of the Fifth Armada leaped into hyperspace, leaving behind the wreckage of their fallen comrades. In the command center on Earth's orbital station, Admiral Junho watched the Dominion fleet retreat. The tactical display showed 140 enemy ships escaping. 160 had been destroyed. Captain Nari approached him. "Sir, should we pursue?" Junho shook his head. "No, let them go. Let them tell the Dominion what happened here." "We lost 3 ships, Nari reported. Damaged 5 others. Casualties are minimal. 3 ships against 160. The victory was overwhelming." But Junho felt no joy. This was just the beginning. The Dominion would be back with more ships, more weapons, more determination. "Prepare a message for the Dominion leadership," he said. "Open broadcast. Make sure everyone in their empire hears it." Technicians worked quickly to set up the transmission. When everything was ready, Junho stood before the camera and began to speak. "This is Admiral Junho of the Terran Defense Fleet. You came to our space with 300 warships. You thought your numbers would frighten us. You thought we would surrender. You were wrong." He paused, letting the words sink in. 40 years ago, you discovered Earth and decided we were beneath your notice. You cataloged us like animals and left us alone. That was your mistake. We used those 40 years to prepare, to build, to become strong. His voice hardened. You think you're the masters of the galaxy. You think every species must bow to your empire. But we are human. We don't bow. We don't surrender. We don't negotiate with those who would enslave us. Junho leaned closer to the camera. This is your final warning. Leave our space. Never return. Tell your council, tell your chancellor, tell everyone in your empire, humanity is not your prey. We are not weak. We are not afraid. And if you come here again, we will destroy you." The transmission ended. The message was broadcast on every frequency the Dominion used, ensuring it would reach every corner of their empire. Junho turned to his staff. "The real war starts now. They'll be back. Probably with everything they have. Make sure we're ready. In the darkness between stars, Fleet Admiral Jiwan sat alone in her quarters. The Eternal Dominance was still hours away from Dominion space. She had written her report. She had documented everything. The human technology, their tactics, the devastating losses. The Council wouldn't want to believe it. They would call her a coward. They would blame her for the defeat. But she had to tell them the truth. The humans weren't primitives. They weren't easy prey. They were dangerous. More dangerous than anything the Dominion had faced in centuries. And if the Empire went to war with them, Jiwan feared what would happen next. News of the Fifth Armada's destruction spread across the Galactic Dominion like wildfire. At first, most people didn't believe it. 300 warships defeated by a primitive species. Impossible. It had to be propaganda, a lie, a mistake in the reports, but then the survivors returned. The damaged ships limped back to their ports. The wounded told their stories. And Admiral Junho's message played on every screen in the Empire. The truth could not be denied. The humans had won. On the Dominion capital world, High Chancellor Taiyang sat in his private chamber, surrounded by advisors. His face was pale with rage. He had watched Junho's message 17 times, and each viewing made him angrier. "This is unacceptable," he said through clenched teeth. "A primitive species cannot humiliate the Dominion like this. We are the greatest power in the galaxy. We have ruled for 3,000 years. And now these humans think they can challenge us?" Grand Strategist Seung cleared his throat carefully. "Chancellor, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. The humans have proven they have advanced technology. Their military capabilities exceed our initial estimates. Maybe we should open negotiations." "Negotiations?" Taiyang stood up, fury blazing in his eyes. "You want me to negotiate with them? After they killed thousands of our people? After they broadcast that message to the entire galaxy? I'm only suggesting we consider all options, Chancellor. The cost of continuing this war, I don't care about the cost." Taiyang slammed his fist on the table. "What I care about is showing the galaxy that the Dominion does not lose. That no species, no matter how advanced, can defy us and survive." Seung exchanged a worried glance with the other advisors, but said nothing more. Taiyang turned to his military commanders. "Mobilize the First Fleet, every warship we have, every dreadnought, every carrier. I want 1,000 ships ready to deploy within the month." One of the admirals spoke up hesitantly. "Chancellor, the First Fleet is our final defense. If we commit it and lose—" "We won't lose," Taiyang interrupted. 1,000 ships, the largest military force ever assembled. Nothing can stand against that. Not even these humans with their tricks and their advanced weapons." He looked around the room, daring anyone to argue. No one did. "Contact all our vassal species. Tell them they must contribute ships and resources. This is not a request. Anyone who refuses will be considered in rebellion." The orders went out. Across the Dominion, subject species received their demands. Some complied immediately, afraid of punishment. Others hesitated, watching to see if anyone would dare refuse. On 36 worlds, whispers of rebellion grew louder. If the humans could defeat the Dominion, why couldn't they? In a small meeting room, Fleet Admiral Jiwan faced a tribunal. 3 senior admirals sat behind a long table, reviewing her report from the battle. Their faces showed disappointment and anger. "You ordered a retreat," Admiral Hanbin said coldly. "You had 300 ships and you ran away." "I ordered a withdrawal to preserve what remained of my fleet," Jiwan replied, keeping her voice steady. "We were being systematically destroyed. Staying would have accomplished nothing except getting everyone killed. You were supposed to defeat the humans, not run from them. With respect, Admiral, defeating them was impossible with the forces and tactics we were using. The humans have technology we don't understand. Teleportation drives, advanced AI, weapons that penetrate our shields. They were prepared for us. We weren't prepared for them." Another admiral leaned forward. "Are you saying the Dominion military is inferior to a species that discovered space travel less than a century ago?" Jiwan met his gaze directly. "I'm saying the humans have been preparing for war with us for 40 years. Every ship, every weapon, every tactic has been designed specifically to counter our strengths and exploit our weaknesses. Yes, in this specific matchup they are superior." The room fell silent. The truth was uncomfortable, but it was still the truth. "What would you recommend?" Hanbin asked finally. Jiwan had thought about this question constantly since the battle. Sue for peace. Recognize Earth's independence. Establish formal diplomatic relations. We can't defeat them militarily, not without catastrophic losses, and even if we could, the cost would weaken the entire Dominion. Hanbin shook his head. The Chancellor has already made his decision. The First Fleet will deploy 1,000 ships. 1,000 ships won't be enough, Jiwan said quietly. That's not your concern anymore. You're being removed from command. This tribunal finds that you showed cowardice in the face of the enemy. You're hereby demoted and assigned to supply logistics. Jiwan stood and saluted, her face carefully neutral. There was nothing more to say. The Dominion had chosen its path and she could not change it. She left the tribunal knowing that more people would die. Many more. On Earth, in a secure bunker deep beneath the surface, the Unified Council met. 12 representatives from different regions of the planet, all looking worried. Ambassador Soyon addressed the council. Our intelligence indicates the Dominion is mobilizing everything they have. We estimate 1,000 ships, possibly more. The room erupted in concerned murmurs. One of the council members spoke up. We defeated 300. Can we defeat 1,000? Admiral Junho, who had been invited to the meeting, stepped forward. It will be difficult. We'll take losses, significant losses, but yes, we can win. At what cost? Another council member asked. High, Junho admitted. We'll lose ships. We'll lose people. But the alternative is surrender, and that means slavery or extinction. Soyon spoke again. What if we tried to negotiate? Surely after our last victory they'll be willing to talk. They won't. Junho's voice was firm. The Dominion doesn't negotiate with those it considers inferior. They see our victory as an insult, not a reason to make peace. They'll keep coming until we're destroyed or until they can't afford to fight anymore. One of the older council members leaned forward. You sound like you want this war to continue. I don't want war, Junho said. I hate war, but I want freedom more, and freedom isn't free. Sometimes you have to fight for it. The council debated for hours. Finally, they voted. The decision was unanimous. Earth would fight. They would activate all defensive systems, deploy every ship, use every weapon they had developed. Humanity would not surrender. After the meeting, Hunyo met with Captain Nari in a quiet corridor. Tell me honestly, Nari said. Can we really defeat 1,000 ships? Hunyo was quiet for a moment. Yes, but it won't be like the last battle. They'll be prepared for our tactics now. They'll have adapted. And they'll be desperate. That makes them dangerous. What's our advantage? We're fighting for our home. For our families. For our right to exist as a free species. That gives us an edge no empire can match. Desperation and determination. He paused, then continued. And we have one more advantage. Project Exodus, Nari's eyes widened. You're going to use them? If we have to. If it means the difference between victory and defeat, yes. Project Exodus. The autonomous war machines. Millions of them. Hidden throughout the solar system, waiting to be activated. Built by advanced AI, each one a weapon designed for a single purpose. Destroy the enemy. The Council approved? They gave me authorization to use any means necessary to defend Earth. That includes Exodus. Nari nodded slowly. Then we really will win. But the cost will be high, Junho finished. On both sides. This won't be a clean victory. It will be brutal. Bloody. The kind of battle people remember for centuries. Across the galaxy, on hundreds of worlds, people watched the situation unfold. The Dominion's subject species saw humanity standing alone against the Empire's might. Some admired their courage. Others thought they were foolish, but everyone watched. Everyone waited to see what would happen when 1,000 warships arrived at Earth. The Dominion was coming with everything it had. The largest military force in galactic history. They expected to crush the humans and restore their pride. They expected an easy victory. They were wrong. Admiral Junho stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital station, looking at his homeworld. Beautiful and fragile and precious. Worth dying for. Worth killing for. In 3 weeks, the First Fleet would arrive. In 3 weeks, the real war would begin. The war that would decide humanity's fate. And Junho was ready. The machines of Project Exodus were waking up. The defense platforms were charging their weapons. Every human warship was preparing for battle. The Dominion thought they had already seen what humanity could do. They had seen nothing yet. The first fleet emerged from hyperspace like an army of steel giants. 1,000 warships, 10 massive dreadnoughts, hundreds of support vessels. The formation stretched across space so vast it would have taken hours to fly from one end to the other. Supreme Commander Young-ho stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Throne. He was a hard man, shaped by decades of military service. He believed absolutely in the Dominion's right to rule. These humans had forgotten their place. He would remind them. "Open a channel to the human homeworld," he ordered. The communication went out. Young-ho's face appeared on screens throughout human space. "This is Supreme Commander Young-ho of the Galactic Dominion. You have attacked our ships. You have killed our people. You have insulted our empire. For these crimes you will be punished." He gestured to the vast fleet behind him. "Surrender immediately. Disarm your ships. Submit to Dominion authority. Do this and we will show mercy. Refuse and we will destroy every ship, every station, every orbital platform you have. Your world will become a colony. Your species will serve the Dominion forever." The message ended. Young-ho waited for the human response. He expected fear, perhaps pleas for mercy, maybe a desperate attempt to negotiate. What he got was silence. "No response, Commander," the communications officer reported. "Then we proceed with the assault. All ships advance. Destroy anything that moves." The massive fleet began moving toward Earth. Engines flared. Weapons charged. 1,000 ships ready to crush the humans and restore Dominion pride. They had traveled for only an hour when Admiral Junho made his move. The human fleet appeared. 75 warships arranged in a defensive line between the Dominion and Earth. It looked like suicide. 1,000 ships against 75. But Junho wasn't planning to fight alone. "Activate Project Exodus," he ordered. All units, full deployment. Throughout the solar system, hidden positions came to life. Asteroids split apart. Lunar craters opened. Comets revealed hollow interiors. And from each location, machines poured out. Millions of them. Small autonomous drones, each no larger than a fighter craft. But there were so many. They filled space like a metallic swarm, moving with perfect coordination, directed by advanced AI systems that processed tactical data faster than any biological mind could comprehend. Young-ho watched in disbelief as the drones converged on his fleet. "Point defenses engage. Shoot them down." The Dominion ships opened fire. Thousands of point defense cannons blazed, destroying hundreds of drones. But for every drone destroyed, 10 more took its place. The swarm was endless. The drones reached the outer ships of the Dominion formation. They attached themselves to hulls, to engines, to weapon systems. Then they detonated. Small explosions rippled across the Dominion fleet. Individually, each blast was minor. But millions of small explosions added together became catastrophic. Ships lost power. Weapons went offline. Shields collapsed. And then the human warships attacked. The 75 human vessels dove into the chaos, targeting the larger Dominion ships. They moved like predators, using their teleportation drives to appear, strike, and vanish. Their weapons tore through damaged shields and exposed hull plating. "Return fire," Young-ho shouted. "All ships, return fire." The Dominion fleet tried to respond, but they were fighting 2 battles at once. The drones kept coming, kept attaching, kept exploding. Ship commanders had to choose. Target the drones or target the human warships. Either way, they died. Then Earth's orbital defenses joined the battle. From the moon, a massive weapon fired. A beam of energy so powerful it lit up the darkness of space. It struck the Morning Glory, one of the 10 dreadnoughts. The beam punched through the ship's shields, through its armor, through its entire length. The dreadnought split in half, its reactor going critical seconds later. "What was that?" Young-ho demanded. "Planetary defense weapon, Commander. Ground-based or lunar-based, we can't tell. Power output exceeds anything we've ever seen." The lunar cannon fired again. Another dreadnought died. Young-ho realized with growing horror that they were losing. 1,000 ships, the might of the entire Dominion, and they were losing to 75 human vessels and a swarm of drones. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessels." "Ignore the drones! Target the warships!" But ignoring the drones was impossible. They were everywhere, overwhelming every defense. And when ships tried to focus on the human warships, the human ships simply teleported away and appeared somewhere else. The battle raged for hours. Space became a graveyard. Dominion ships died by the dozens. The proud First Fleet that had arrived with such confidence was being torn apart. Commodore Minho, who had survived the previous battle and been assigned to the First Fleet, watched the disaster unfold. He had warned them. He had told them the humans were dangerous. But no one had listened. Now they were paying the price. He saw the Eternal Throne targeted by 3 human ships at once. They appeared in perfect coordination, firing their lance weapons simultaneously. The flagship's shields buckled. Armor melted. Critical systems failed. "Commander, we need to evacuate," someone shouted, but Young-ho refused to leave his post. "We don't retreat. We don't surrender. We are the Dominion." A final human strike hit the bridge. The explosion consumed everything. Minho, on his own ship nearby, found himself suddenly in command of what remained of the fleet. He looked at the tactical display. Half the fleet was gone. 500 ships destroyed in a matter of hours. The drones were still coming. The human ships showed no signs of stopping. He made the decision. All ships withdraw. Emergency retreat. Anyone who can jump to hyperspace, do it now. The surviving ships fled. Some didn't make it. Human vessels pursued, destroying the slowest and most damaged ships. But eventually the Dominion forces escaped. 470 ships had survived. 530 were destroyed, including 9 of the 10 dreadnoughts. The largest military force in galactic history had been broken. On Earth's orbital station, Admiral Junho surveyed the aftermath. The human fleet had lost 18 ships. 23 others were damaged but repairable. Casualties numbered in the thousands. It hurt. Every loss hurt. But they had won. Captain Nari approached with casualty reports. Yunyo read them in silence, memorizing every name. These people had died defending their world. He would make sure they were remembered, sir, Nari said quietly. We're receiving communications from across the Dominion. They're subject species. Some of them are declaring independence. Junho looked up. How many? Last count was 14 worlds. They saw what happened here. They saw the Dominion lose. Twice. They think if we can defeat the Empire, maybe they can too. A small smile crossed Junho's face. Good, let them be free. The Dominion's grip is weakening. They can't control everyone anymore. Not after this. 3 months later, representatives from the Dominion arrived at neutral space to negotiate. Grand Strategist Seong led the delegation. High Chancellor Taeyang had been removed from power after the disaster. The council was desperate for peace. Ambassador Soyeon represented humanity. She met Shung in a conference room on a space station between their territories. We propose a treaty, Shung said, his voice tired. Earth and its colonies will be recognized as an independent nation. We establish formal borders. Both sides agree to non-aggression. Soyeon reviewed the proposal. And your subject species? What about them? The treaty needs to include a clause. Any species in the Dominion can petition for independence without military intervention. You can't keep them as slaves anymore. Shung was quiet for a long moment. This would fundamentally change the Dominion, but he had no choice. The Empire was fracturing anyway. Better to acknowledge it formally than watch it collapse in chaos. Agreed, he said. The Treaty of Sol was signed. Earth was free. And the door had opened for other species to claim their freedom too. Within a year, dozens of worlds declared independence. The Galactic Dominion, which had ruled for 3,000 years, began to shrink. Not destroyed, but diminished. Their age of conquest was over. Admiral Junho stood on the observation deck watching Dominion diplomats leave Earth's space. Beside him, Captain Nari looked thoughtful. We changed the galaxy, she said. We defended our home, Junho corrected. That's all we wanted. To be left alone, to be free. But the Dominion couldn't allow that. So we showed them what happens when you corner humanity. He looked at Earth, beautiful against the darkness. We didn't want to be warriors. We wanted to be explorers, scientists, artists. But they forced us to become soldiers. And we became very good soldiers. Nari nodded. What happens now? Now we watch. We stay vigilant. We make sure no one ever threatens Earth again. And maybe, if we're lucky, we can go back to being what we wanted to be in the first place. Far away in the heart of the Dominion, Commander Hyun-woo reviewed the final casualty reports. Thousands dead, hundreds of ships destroyed, the Empire's power broken. He thought back to that first message he had received. The strange signals from human space. If he had known then what he knew now, what would he have done differently? But there was no point in asking. The past couldn't be changed. The Dominion had discovered humanity and deemed them primitive, had ignored them, had attacked them when they proved dangerous, and humanity had taught them a lesson the galaxy would never forget. You don't threaten Earth and expect to survive. The observation deck was quiet.